Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this super awesome 1979 Bally Star Trek pinball machine that I pulled out of a field. That's right, Joe, I've been telling them I pulled it out of a field. And we've been slowly fixing up. So the thing was in pretty rough shape when we started, but it's getting much better. It looks nice. And but it doesn't play yet, so we've been working through it. Now we did several videos, so if you want to see them, go back on our channel and look at the videos directly preceding this one. It'll be our other Star Trek repair videos. We always put them up in order. So in one video, we showed the shape it was in when we got it, told the story about where we got it, re-stenciled the cabinet. We did another video where we worked on the rectifier board. Look how nice. Look how lovely. We did another video where we worked on the solenoid driver board. I think we're going to have to mess with that a little bit more, but we did a whole video on that. We did a video where we put in a brand new MPU and put in new LEDs. And we did a video also, I forgot about, where we did the playfield, touched up some of the paint. And we've got it doing its, looking good, but it's not quite playable yet because a lot of the light bulbs are out. So that's the next thing that we're going to do. So I'm going to put it in test mode, and we'll see how many of the bulbs are working and how many need work. So we're in test mode, and only a few lights have survived the years. Pretty rough. This poor thing. And then on the back box, it's a little better. All those, we got the one there that doesn't work. It's not going to work though. I'm going to have to show you that here later. That one's not working. And one of these isn't working. That's got to be the socket. Okay, so a whole ton of them on the playfield are not working. Now, this lamp driver board does all of those. And as you can see, it has like mud all over it from wasps or mud dauber or something like that. So that's probably the problem, maybe, hopefully. But then again, it also has bad, the pins. We had to repin everything on the MPU. We'll talk about this later. And we haven't repinned these yet, so it could just be that the connections need redone. Now, you can do this with the lamps. Don't do this with the MPU or anything like that because it'll screw up chips. But on the lamp driver, you can get away with just wiggling the connectors. And sometimes you'll see more of the lights pop on when you do that. No luck. We got major problems here, folks. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the playfield and make sure that we've replaced all the light bulbs. I don't think we have yet. So it could be that half of them are just burnt-out light bulbs, and then once we get to where we're pretty confident that it's something on the board, we'll pull the board out and start working on it. But it's a pretty common problem on Bally's. You just don't usually see this many of them out, but then again, usually you don't see a nest on the lamp board either. This thing also had pretty heavy corrosion from the old board, so it could be that the traces on the back of this are all screwed up. And we'll see in a minute. Okay, so in the back box, everything's cool except for that one that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then all of these, almost all of them came back by just swapping the bulb, twisting the socket a little bit to clean it. All right. So what I did was I made a list of the ones that will not work. 6,000, 9,000, 10,000. The L right there. The right lane over there. The L and the Y there. And the B. But all in all, that's not bad. This is the favorite part of the video. Everybody always likes to tell me whenever light bulbs aren't working. So there you go. We got a bunch that aren't working. But it's getting there. And the 1,000 just needed played with a little bit. And the one down there just needed played with a little bit. So, there we go. So I made a list. Here is my list. We had a viewer make us this caricature and sent us these pads of paper a while back. Look, it looks just like me. See the little mouse running out? The light bulb. Stuff we gotta do, it says. Okay, so I've written down the color of the wire and then what bulb that goes to. Now you can't read it because I wrote it in my own language. Right? So don't feel bad if you can't read my handwriting. I can read it just fine. Alright, so we're going to pull out that board and test it and see if we can clean it up a little bit and see if there's a corrosion issue on the back of it. And then we'll go from there. Oh, I was going to say about the LEDs. Some people put the LEDs in the game, but we're not going to do that on this one. We want it to have that cool 1979 look. Now the displays are LED, right? But the bulbs themselves are the real light bulbs. So we're putting all real light bulbs in this one. Watch it now. There's a little trap there. Okay, so I looked in the manual and I wrote down what connection each wire was. And then I wrote down which transistor drives each wire. So we can check them specifically. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is try to clean that off so that's drying while we're working on the rest of the board. Now here's the thing with these lamp driver boards. These are a dime a dozen. These don't really, knock on wood, these main chips usually on most of them besides this one don't usually go bad. So you can get these and usually a couple of the transistors will be bad and the thing still works. So every machine that's ever been parted almost has a working lamp board in it. They just, they're pretty reliable. And then also to put LEDs in it, you have to have a board that supports that because there's like a little resistor mod or something to make it work. So if someone updates their machines to LEDs, they take the old board out, and so now there's an extra one of those floating around, right? So there are a ton of these that they have very little value. You can buy them for $10 or $15 on eBay all day long. I actually bought like a whole ton of them for $5 a piece several years ago. So I've got a bunch of extra ones. So with it at that price, you could just swap in a new one and be done with it. Or you could buy a brand new one. They make new ones for, I think they're $100, or they may even be less than that. A new design, right? But I'm going to try to fix it just because it's fun to fix them. That's just how I see things. Okay, so the board that was mounted above it had a lot of corrosion damage on it. So there's a battery that mounts about right here in the cabinet. And what happens is that battery starts leaking alkaline, and will literally leak down onto the board. It didn't on this one, so we got lucky. But a lot of times whenever you get one, the traces on the back and the front will be all screwed up. You can see a little bit of it like there, but I don't think that's necessarily alkaline. I think that's just where it's been out in the weather. In that trailer for so long with the doors open and everything, with the wall open. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get all that off. I haven't decided the best way to do it yet. I'm going to try, I think, to just scrape some of it off of the wire brush, and then I'll wet it and try to clean up the rest of it. But if we can get most of that off, I think we'll be all right. When I looked at in the manual that's at the schematics, there's no rhyme or reason to the ones that are out. So it's not like all these are out. The lines here that control all of those bulbs, it's not like they're all out and these are all fine. It's like one or two here, one or two here, one or two here, one, two here, and those don't even line up. So it's not like one of the feeding lines from the MPU is messed up or something. I think it's just bad connections on the connectors or bad transistors. Now the connectors, look at this. You're gonna love this. See how dirty they are? That's your problem. But here's the bad part. The pin in the female part of the connector inside the cabinet is just as bad. So we may have to repin the connectors, or at least part of the connectors, and we certainly have to clean these. Okay? So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get that off, And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to resolder the pins where everything plugs in. You get these cold solder joints on this, and looks like somebody's done this one a little bit in a couple spots there. See how the ones at the end have been resoldered at some point? So somebody's worked on it a little bit at some point. That first one may need a little bit. I'll resolder all of them anyway. Okay, so let me do that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I resoldered the connectors. Okay, all 4 of them. And I cleaned all the pins. And I took a wire brush and went crazy on all of the mud. Most of it came off, and then I took a wet rag and a dental pick and took out most of the rest of it. We had one casualty. That third leg there broke because I was going crazy on it with the wire brush. And you might think, oh, well, why would you use something so aggressive? It's a stress test. If it can't handle this, I don't want to leave it in there. Right? So, yeah, if you've got something that's kind of just borderline and it's going to break if you touch it with a wire brush, you know, you need to know that so you can fix it. Right? So it broke one leg. The other ones seem to have been working, you know, in the board, so they're probably fine. I don't know. I mean, in the game. So we'll see. So I fixed it by putting a little, the leg off of a capacitor through the board where it's stuck up above the board, soldered it in place, and then soldered it to what was left of the leg. But we'll keep our eye on that. If that thing messes with us, we'll just swap the whole chip. How's that? That is, I believe, well, I don't know what that one is. It's marked Motorola 620-37. Motorola had their own part numbers. But it's some kind of decoder chip. So where would I get one of those? Well, you can look online and it'll tell you what the part is. And then also in the manual, whenever you look in the schematics, it tells you what the part is. And also, like I said, I got a whole bunch of these that are parts boards. So if that thing's messed up, I'll just pull one off another parts board and put it on there. But I'd really like to put this board back in it because it's the one that's always been in it since I bought it, at least. Doesn't matter at all, but I kind of like stuff like that. Okay. So now we need to test all of these transistors. So using my multimeter, I'm just going to go through and check with the diode test the relationship between the 3 legs, right? So you might put your red lead here and your black lead there and then your black lead there and then compare it to the one next to it. And there's only 3 or 4 ways you can test it like that. And then once you do that, compare leg to leg on the transistor and then compare it to the one next to it, you can go through and check them all and find the ones that are weird. The ones that don't test similar are suspect, right? So I like going through them and testing them all and see if I find any that I don't think work or they seem off. And then if they do, I mark them and then I look on my list and see if it's one of my ones that I'm having problems with, right? But as dirty as the pins were on the side, it very easily could be that it was all just bad connections. We did wiggle the wires, you saw that. But sometimes that's not enough, okay? So I'm going to go through and start testing all of these and see if I can find any bad ones. And if I do, I'll show you what it's testing different. Okay, so I found 2 of them that seem trippy. They don't seem quite right. Okay, so one of them is Q43. Q43, I am informed, is the L light in the middle of the playfield. So let me show you what's different. Right? So we're going to compare it to Q44 here. I've got it on diode test. There's no relationship between the ground, which is this middle leg, and the anode, which is the right leg, on any of these ever, whenever you measure them. So it's always open like that, right? And that's like that on this one too. But if I go around and I measure to the left leg, I'm getting 0.709. If I check on this one, I get 1.2. So all of them are giving me about 1.2, which is, the only thing significant about that is that it's above about 0.7. This one is at about 0.7. So there's some kind of voltage drop relationship there between those two legs that's different from all the other ones. So I've got Q43 marked as one of the, like I've tested through and I was like, that one don't seem right. And then I look on my list and it's one of the ones. If I check the other way, so the red lead on the ground, 0.572, but the other ones give me a little higher, about 0.7, and it's like that pretty consistently all through it. Okay, and then the other one is way up here, that's Q43. It seems to be, it just measures different than the other ones. And the other one seems to be Q4 up here. There is no relationship, it seems. All right, so if I go between ground and emitter, I'm getting 0.7, which you get on the other ones, 0.7, right? But if I reverse the leads, on most of them I get 1.2, like we were just talking about. On Q4 I get nothing, right? So that one tests different too. So Q4 and Q43 were the only ones that tested different. All of these ones, some of those aren't, there's about 10 or 15 of these that aren't even used on this game. This is just a generic board that was in all of the Ballys, and is also the exact board that's in the Sterns. So they made it where it can do a certain number of lights, but they don't do all those lights on each game. So there's about 10 or 15 of these that don't even do any of the bulbs. And then these ones in the middle, just so happens that all of them that are in the game at least are working. So I don't even need to test them, because since I wrote down all of my ones that are suspect, none of them are these. So it's just a couple. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 8 lights out. So I found 2 that seemed bad, and then we had tons of screwed up connections. So you could go through and replace all 8 of the ones that were bad, but I like leaving them as whole as possible, folks. So what is this chip? Well, it has a Motorola part number again. All right. But we all know that they're 5660s, don't we? Isn't that what they are? Let me look. I've got a batch of them here somewhere. They're 5060s, I think. 2N 5060. Let me see if that's right. 2N 5060. And you can replace a 2N 5060 with a 2N 5064. 5064. So they are a 2N 5060, and you can replace it with a 2N 5064. So I'm going to swap a couple of them out, and then we'll pop it back in the machine and see if everything's working. Okay, so we put it back in, and we've got most of them working, but the 9 is off. A second ago it was stuck on, but we'll get into that here in a minute. Okay, everything else is good. It's all good. It's all good. And then you get up here. The B is off, but it was stuck on. The 9 and the B may have some relation, and then the Y has never came on. So we still got a few issues. So I'm going to take it back out, and we'll look at a couple other things. Okay, so we got our 3 problem child transistors. I tested them all. They still tested fine. I swapped all 3 of them anyway, but check out whenever we turn it on. Look at the 9. As soon as it turns on, the 9 is stuck on, and the B is stuck on. And then after it boots, the Y never comes on. So we've got those 3 are our problem childs. Now if we leave it on long enough, the 9 and the B will turn themselves off. So there's only one thing really that it can be left. Now I did try, whenever we were working on the MPU, I repinned all of those connectors. I haven't repinned these because, as you see, everything's working with the exception of 3 light bulbs. and 2 of them are working too good. They're on all the time, right? But just for giggles, I did replace the 3 pins for those 3 lights, and same problem. So there's really only one thing left that it can be. It's that decoder chip. All 3 of those are ran by this one decoder chip. And oh, it kind of feels warm. Let me see if I'm just hallucinating. Yeah, it's a little warm. So I'm going to swap that out, and that should fix it. Same thing, I've got a whole bunch of parts boards. So I'll show you in the schematics, though, how that looks. So here are the schematics. Here's your signals that come in. You've got AD, address 0, 1, 2, and 3 lines, lamp address lines. And then you've got lamp data lines, 4 of them, right? So they come in. The 4 address lines come to the big chip, which is a MC14514. So you've got voltage. It's a binary to 1 of 16 decoder. You've got your voltage, your 4 address lines, and 1 of the data lines. So 1 data line goes to each decoder chip, and the 4 address lines go to each of them. Okay, and then you've got a strobe line. All right, and then that has 16 outputs, as you would imagine. The outputs all go through a little resistor, and then through the SCRs that we replaced, and then simply ground the lamp that's on the other end of the wiring. Very simple little board. That's why they usually work so well. Right? So I'm going to swap that off of one of my 50 parts boards, and we'll see if that fixes our problem. So basically we've got one of these that's always off, and we've got 2 of them that's always on. Q4 is the one that's always off, and then Q11 and Q13 are the 2 that are always on. So I'll swap it out, and we'll see if that fixes it. I keep talking to everybody about my world's best solder sucker here. Vampire Tools. Look, I've rubbed the label off. I've used it so much. Vampire Tools, world's best solder sucker. It has a nylon tip, silicone tip, I'm sorry. I've been telling everybody how this is the greatest solder sucker in the world, and everybody, a couple people, have replied saying that I'm pronouncing solder wrong, and then the other people have said that I should get a vacuum, like the desoldering station. But I've been trying to explain to everybody that this thing works so good, I don't need one. I just prefer this, right? So, look, I need to retin my tip. Look at this. I'm not actually touching it, people. It's an optical illusion. I want to show you how good this stuff works. So I just go through and I add a little bit of solder to the old chip. Boom. The chips fall out of the board, people. They fall out of the board. You can't get it much better than that. I don't care if you got a Hako or not. So I'm not going to buy one. I like using my manual one. Look at that. It works awesome. So if you want one of these things, now it may not be, you may like the Hako desoldering station that costs $300. Better than this that costs $30. But I like these. These are cool. So if you want one of these, the world's best solder sucker. The whole secret to the thing is it has a piece of silicone on the tip of it. So if you take this off, right, like I got a little plug stuck in it. It's a really nice aluminum, I guess it's aluminum, solder sucker with a little piece of nylon on the tip of it. So basically, not nylon, silicone. So it can get really hot, right? So that's the whole secret to the thing. It works great. I'm making like 30 cents every time one of you buy one of those things. I'm going to get rich. I've sold at least 10 of them, at least. So if you want one of those, go to our website, lionsarcade.com. Go check it out. There's a link down below. And we have a parts page, and on our parts page there's links to all kinds of stuff that we use in our videos, including the world's best solder sucker. Now I've been told that people are buying the cheapo one. There's one that's $5 less. And you can do that if you want, because I still get a tip if you follow my link to the thing, right? No matter what you buy on Amazon, after you click the link, one of the links on the website, it records that I sent you there, so I get, But the cheaper one has a problem. If you read the reviews, they made the neck of this thing slightly smaller on the cheaper one, so it breaks. So you want the Vampire Tools one. Now, you don't have to buy it. I'm just saying, if you want one, it took me years to figure out that this thing rocks. So yeah, we do them all by hand. So we think this one's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one off a parts board, and we'll pop it in. Now, this is the type of thing, too, that if you had one of these that's new, go ahead and put a new one in, right? But I just figured I'd show you how easy they come out. And that's kind of tricky, because this is just a one-sided board. So on a two-sided board, what happens is sometimes you get solder up onto the traces on the top. It doesn't come out quite as easy. On these one-sided boards, literally the chip will fall out whenever you whenever you desolder it. Okay. So we put in a replacement decoder. Now, I must admit, I figured it would be one of the two in the middle that had the mud dauber's nest on it, but it was the top one that had no damage to it. It just goes to show, you never can tell, right? Okay, the V is now working. The Y is now working. And the 9 is now working. That's right, the whole thing's working. There is only one light bulb on this whole machine that's not working right. Okay? You can't tell because of the brightness, but that's working too, and that's working as well. Okay, there's only one on the entire machine that is not working. Unless y'all find one I can't find. And that is this one. This little socket here. Now, I'm going to leave that like that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to leave that like that. If you didn't see the first video, this machine, I picked it up in a guy called me, and his uncle or somebody in his family had died, and the guy had a party house. It was like a trailer out in the middle of a field that he used to go get drunk in with his buddies. And this machine was inside that party house. And I hauled it out of there and saved it. It was literally falling through the floor. There was a wizard that had already fallen through the floor and was destroyed. It had a big hole right in the middle of the playfield where rats and now that I think about it, I wonder if the guy shot that too. I don't know. So basically the wizard had the glass off of it, but maybe the glass had been broken because he shot it or something. But there was a hole in the middle of the wizard about this big, just torn out, right? And I assumed that maybe rats had done it, rat feces and stuff, but there wasn't a lot of that in this machine. The rats hadn't gotten to this machine. And I don't know how rats would eat all the way through the playfield or why they would even do that. I've never seen that. So it could be the guy shot it, right? But the story is that one night, the guy got mad at the Star Trek machine and shot the freaking pinball machine. So we went over this in the first video, but there is a hole in the back of the pinball machine. The bullet went through it, went through the back box. You see it there underneath the soundboard. See the hole all the way through. And then the trajectory was just so that it destroyed this lamp socket. Now I could replace that really easily, but the story's so good I figured I'd just leave it in there. And let me show you something special. We got one last piece of the puzzle to figure out. I have the bullet. This bullet was stuck in the socket whenever I bought the game. Look at that. So here's what I want to figure out. Bubba shot the pinball. And what size bullet did he use? Oh man, I wish I had my calipers with me. I don't have any calipers here. Here's the deal. I can measure it with a tape measure, and maybe we can figure it out, right? Now, I am no ballistics expert, but it looks like you folks may not be able to see it. Excuse me. If I had to put money on it, that is not 3/8 of an inch. We'll talk about that here in a minute, too. I know you people are all metric people, a lot of you people. Okay, it's not 3/8 of an inch, which means it's not quite 0.375 of an inch. Okay, I think it's a 357 slug. That's what I think. That's my guess, folks. It's 357 slug. Now, why do I think that? It's because the guy was a redneck. He's in the Carolinas, okay? Again, I don't know much about guns. Y'all can tell me. You just saw what it measures. Okay. So, we use SAE, imperial measurements. We don't use metric, right? The whole world keeps insisting that Americans use metric. And the only thing that we started using metric on were bullets. Which is the most American thing ever, right? So it could be a 9mm, but I don't think that's quite 9mm. I think a 38 and a 9mm are the same size. And a 38 is like 3/8. 0.375 would be 3/8. So I think, and it's slightly smaller than that, so I think it might be a 357 slug. Somebody can tell me. It looks pretty big, though, I mean, you just saw the measurement, okay? I think it's a 357 slug. Now, why do I think that? It's because the guy was a redneck, so rednecks don't carry around 9mm. But if you say, hey, man, you want to buy a 357 Magnum? They go, oh, hell yeah, man, how much you want for it? And then the dumbass starts shooting things with his 357. That's probably what happened. This is not a 22. It's too big. And, it would measure smaller. But I think it's a 357 slug. I think the guy shot it with a 357. He thought he was... Is that what Dirty Harry had? Did Dirty Harry have a 357 or did he have a 45? But a 45 would be bigger. It'd be, 45.45, I think. I believe. Well, y'all leave your comments down below. I'll bet some of you know exactly what it is. Maybe you can tell just by looking at it what it is. But I would guess 357 slug. If a redneck did it, and I'm joking about this, but I'm serious. A redneck's not going to carry around a 22. He's not going to carry around a 25. He's going to carry around a 357, a 38, or a freaking 45. That's it. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be one of those three. That's my opinion. So I think it's probably a 357 slug. And the guy probably would have done it sometime in the 90s. And his nephew or whatever was telling me the story. He was like, yeah, he was drunk. They got drunk up here all the time. And he got mad one night and shot the pinball machine. Now, when this went through the back, it stuck in that socket. Which was metal, so it went through the back, which was wood. It went through that metal plate on the back, which slowed down the trajectory a little bit. And then it just happened to hit, instead of the wood light insert, it hit the lamp socket and got jammed in there. So it didn't break the back glass. It may have kissed it and fell off of it or something, but it didn't break it. You can see in the pictures of whenever we pulled it out of the mobile home, the back glass was still intact. Now, we took the back glass off because it was pretty damaged. I sealed it, and then I hung it on the wall and sold it to someone, and we have purchased a brand new back glass for this machine because we knew we were going to get it in nicer shape. So I'm going to save this slug, and I'm going to leave that one socket screwed up that stopped the slug, and I'm going to tell the customer the whole story and see if he cares enough to keep it like that. If it was me, there's no way in hell I would replace that socket. You're not going to find another one like this. Okay, so that's that. We got all the lamps working. Now we're on to the switches, the solenoids, and playing it. Okay, folks, so that's it for the lights. I called my brother Donnie, and I have been informed that a 357 and a 38 are the same size, actually. Right? And then the metric version is the 9mm. So it could be a 9mm, it could be a 357, could be a 338, but I'm telling you, if it was a redneck, it wasn't a 9mm. All right, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave your comments down below. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. This thing's coming right along. This will be my most demonetized video in the history of YouTube, talking about guns for 10 minutes, or bullets for 10 minutes. But we'll see what happens. Make sure to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know about him, we have a brother channel where my brother runs, where he gets in all kinds of trouble working on old vehicles and old farm, like his farm and farm equipment, and hauling things, and working on a couple old buildings that he and I bought in a small town near here. So if you enjoy watching us work on these old pinball machines, you'd probably enjoy that. So leave your comments below. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next video.